Hey!
Yes, hi.
The princess of Ukraine.
I'm really so happy to see you here, to welcome you here, and it's my pleasure to present Rob Davidson, who is really a well-known expert in travel industry, in events organization. We met with Rob in Lviv in November. At one of the conferences, he was consulting the city about the travel development, and you know that Lviv is really, really great, and it's really very welcoming place for events. So we met with Rob, and he was speaking about conferences of future that are not held in these conference halls. That are open and relaxed. So I said to him that we have that event, please come. And unfortunately, Rob, everything was against us, but still you are here. And Rob is also very, very close to translation industry and interpreting industry, because in a week after we met in Lviv, he sent me a photo with Tatiana Kaplun, we know her. So they were speaking at some of the events about interpreting, of some of the conference about interpreting, and it's actually a perfect world where the conference events organizers are working in connection with interpreters. So I won't take your time anymore. So Rob Davidson.
Thank you very, very much. Thank you. And it's really nice to see you again. And I just wished with all my heart that I could be with you all in the middle of the forest in Ukraine. I've been following the event online and the parties as well, and the talent show. Wow. And it really looks like a whole lot of fun. So it's very hard to be one of the last speakers, but I'm going to do my best. I really respect your industry, your profession. I discovered conference interpreting quite late in my life, but now I always think of myself as an interprète manqué. And I know that in my next life, I'm for sure going to come back as a conference interpreter. It's a fantastic profession. Your work is to international conferences to make them possible, and I have many, many friends in your fantastic industry. So I really, really enjoy speaking at events with a lot of conference interpreters there. I've done that with UTIC in London, in South America, and then in Paris. It's a wonderful, wonderful association. So my job this evening is to speak about conference trends, because of course your industry, your prosperity is very closely linked to the prosperity of the conference industry. So I would like to look at what we imagine, what we think is going to be the future of the industry post the pandemic. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Dr. Rob Davidson. I'm the Managing Director of Mice Knowledge, and that is a company specializing in research, education and training for the conference industry. So if you like tweeting there on the screen, you have my hashtag if you hear anything you would like to share. For those of you who still think that mice is about rodents running around your kitchen, just a quick reminder of what mice means. Meetings, of course. Incentive travel, a form of meeting to motivate management and colleagues. Conferences and exhibitions. Sometimes we call it business events, and sometimes we call it even business tourism. But mice is nice and short, so let's call it mice. Okay, I want to begin by looking at trends in conferences before the pandemic. What was what were the trends in our industry? First of all, some good news, more destinations and more venues for MICE events. It seemed last year and the previous years that every week some city in the world opened its doors as a conference destination, building a new conference center, creating a convention bureau, for example. So the supply of destinations, not only in Europe and America, but all over the world, was increasing as more and more countries saw the value in being somewhere where conferences could take place. Not only destinations, but also venues. I've mentioned conference centers, but more big hotels running conferences, even unusual venues, what we call unusual venues. These are things like museums, tourist attractions, like Madame Tussauds, opening their doors to the conference industry. Those are fun and those are funky places to have your event. We also saw, and this is encouraging, every year more international conferences. We count those things, and we saw growth, especially in the international conferences of international professional associations, you know, the International Association of Architects and so on and so on. We saw more conferences, but an interesting trend parallel to that was that when we count the number of participants, the average number of participants was going down every year. Why? Well, one very important reason is what I call the atomization or the specialization of the professions. New specializations in science, in medicine, so that we were seeing more conferences because there were more specialized associations, but smaller than before. For example, instead of having one big conference for dentists, for example, you would find 4 or 5 smaller conferences, more specialized. Dentists specializing in children's teeth, or remedial dentistry, or aesthetic dentistry. That means more conferences, but smaller average attendance. Encouragingly also, we saw much more professionalism in all branches of the meetings industry. Certification for conference planners, for men and women running conference venues, for people working in convention bureaus. This is very encouraging. Also in higher education, more and more courses for meeting planners, conference organizers. So young men and women coming into our world already qualified with a high degree. More active role for participants, well, I'm going to come back to that because it's a continuing trend when we see that people are not so happy anymore to sit and listen to speech after speech after speech. People want to be part of the show, part of the event. I'm speaking about the participants, the delegates. They want to be much more active and they want much more interactivity. Something I do believe is going to make the job of conference interpreters even more demanding. Sustainability, you know, we understand that our industry has an impact on the natural environment. Hundreds of thousands of participants flying over the world every day to attend conferences. We're very mindful of that. And a strong trend in the last few years has been the move towards sustainable conferences, green conferences, saving paper, saving energy, using venues which practice recycling, and so on and so on. And more use of technology, conference apps, for example, being used, and all the technology that you see, not only in your profession, but in the conference as a whole, to make it much more interesting. Looking forward now, what can we see? Well, we can see 3 phases of recovery, and this really depends on which country you are in at the moment, because this will not be an even recovery all over the world. Some countries, are acting like nothing happened. I was in touch with some Finnish colleagues this morning, and they were saying, well, you know, it's like nothing happened here. It's a small concern. It's, you know, business as usual. But in other countries, like unfortunately my own, United States, Brazil, you know the countries, we are seeing a much more serious situation. So since March, we've seen widespread cancellations of conferences, postponements until 2021, which is really a cancellation. And of course, this is something you are well aware of. The next phase, and some countries, Germany, for example, are already in this phase, are opening their doors again to conferences with limitations. Of course, very strict hygiene measures, social distancing, limits on the number of people who can meet indoors. But some countries are already entering this third phase, and the second phase, and the third phase is the one that we're all longing for. But if you were thinking I was going to tell you when, I'm very sorry to disappoint you. Nobody knows. Nobody knows when conferences will return to their normal form, pre-pandemic form. Many people, and you know this too, believe that we will never go back to the old normal. People are saying more and more that there were things wrong with the old normal and that the new normal should be better. So, what do we see in terms of conferences? One element which will be very important will be consumer confidence. The men and women sitting listening to your interpretations, they must be persuaded to attend. And you don't need me to explain that in the next few months, even the next few years, people, potential delegates, potential participants, will be looking at their personal finances and thinking, do I want to invest 1,000 euros in traveling to a conference for 2 or 3 days? Can I afford it? And people will not be confident until they know that their jobs are secure, again, that they will have the finances. Consumer confidence will matter. Geographically speaking, it's easy to see that the recovery will come first locally. Local conferences, regional conferences, national conferences, you know, events when no one's getting on a plane with all the potential problems that will entail. No one's going to an airport. I believe international conferences, sadly, will be the last to recover fully. It's going to be very interesting to see which destinations are popular. And again, it's easy to imagine that countries which have managed the pandemic well, which have recovered quickly, think about South Korea, Germany, for example, those could be more attractive than normal for international conferences. Again, helping people's confidence. This sounds depressing, but I've got good news for you. Every man and woman listening to my presentation knows that after this pandemic, our future as a race, as a world, will depend on international cooperation. Scientists, medical people, security people coming together to talk, to confer with each other, exchange ideas, their own ideas for how to cope with the next pandemic, if it comes, how to prevent the next pandemic. This will create demand for international conferences. But if you haven't heard this word already, hybrid, then you know that it's going to be very important. During the pandemic, and this UTIC event is a shining example, so many conferences have gone hybrid. Some people, like the lucky people in the middle of the forest, attending in person, and unfortunate people like me attending virtually. This will continue. This will continue for quite a long time. This is the guy, he's the most important guy at a hybrid conference, filming the proceedings. Here's the official definition. of a hybrid conference or blended conferences. But on the positive side, this extends the life of the conference, the reach of the conference. Think how many hundred of people are participating today in UTIC. That's very positive. Remote speakers like myself, of course, can be involved too, which is a positive thing. It's demanding. This is demanding for everyone. A hybrid conference, if you haven't interpreted one already, believe me, it presents formidable challenges for everyone. It presents challenges for the organizers because, crucially, they need to keep everyone engaged, participating, and everyone knows how easy it is to lose the attention when you're on a virtual event. You know, there's always temptation to go and check your emails or to do something else. Really successful hybrid conferences manage that. They are not simply face-to-face conferences with a camera broadcasting all over the world. They need to engage everyone. It's not new. For many years, international associations and national associations have been capturing, recording the content and either selling it or giving it to their members, making a profit from this. Copyright issues, of course, are important. And I know when I speak at conferences, which I do a lot, the organizers always say to me, is it okay if we use your speech to record it, to present it again? You know, I always say yes, because I always say yes to everything. Here's something fun, which you may have already seen, holograms. This chap in the middle, he is Jean-Luc Mélenchon, and he was one of the candidates, unsuccessful, of course, for the French presidential election. But, you know, this was an event just before the election in France. I was there at the time. And using holographic projection, Monsieur Mélenchon appeared simultaneously in 6 different French cities. It's fun, and believe me, when you're participating in a conference with a holographic speaker, after 5 minutes, you just forget that the guy isn't in the room with you. The possibilities and the potential challenges of interpreting holographic speakers, I will leave you to imagine. But it's becoming more popular. It's better than a speaker appearing on the screen. It's more fun, it's more funky. It can be pre-recorded, which I think from the point of view of interpreters would be preferable. But it's also possible that it happens live. Now, again, a strong trend which will intensify after the pandemic is this one about the attendee or the conference experience. Everyone's speaking about conferences as experiences, and younger participants in particular want that experience. Now, if you look at this graph, you can see that in the middle, during the event, when people are there face-to-face, the engagement level is very high. They're learning together, they are networking, they're chatting, great. But the challenge now is to extend that engagement over the many months before the face-to-face event and after the face-to-face event. This is becoming crucial. Using social media, and UTIC is an excellent example. We had a lot of social media activity running up to the last few days, and I'm convinced it will continue after today. So this is again a strong trend, and we speak about it as extending the event life cycle. So what's your role as interpreters? You know, you should be there before the event, after the event, with a little testimonial, 1-minute video saying, I'm Tatiana and I will be interpreting during the event. You won't see me, but you know, I'll be in the box at the back of the room. There's a role for you in creating excitement, those kind of behind-the-scenes stories that look great on Instagram and Facebook and so on. Fragmentation is an intensifying trend, and again, I'm sorry, but it does not make your life any easier. The old model, which was, I call it, proclamatory, the sage on the stage, one speaker after another with Q&A in between, simple. That format is breaking down because especially the younger generation, they don't want it anymore. They're experimenting with more participatory, more interactive formats, and more flexible formats. Campfire sessions, for example, groups of participants having, I call them mini meetings, outside the main proceedings. It could be a dozen people sitting outside during the coffee break, having a meeting together, exchanging information, exchanging knowledge, and so on. You need to be there. It's logistically very, very challenging, but if it's an international conference, my goodness, they are really going to need interpreters even in those smaller off-program discussions. Live audience feedback for speakers. The younger generations in particular want to be part of the show. They want to express their opinion more, not just during Q&A. They want it to be much more participatory. The off-program side discussions, I've already mentioned them. And we're understanding something very interesting about conferences. A lot of the value of conferences, and you know this from the last few days, is outside the program. It's those encounters that you have in the bar in the evening, exchanging knowledge, exchanging business cards, exchanging problems even. Those are a strong part of the value of conferences. Again, what is the role of interpreters? The mediator, the facilitators as well, are going to have a more demanding job because they have to manage all this. They need to keep everyone on track. They need to involve the people participating virtually, and they need to moderate much better than they're doing now. So this is you. You look great. You work well in these situations. Lots of people, headphones on, listening to speaker after speaker. But this model is breaking down. More of this. Formats. Not speakers on stage, but you know, the man in the middle, he's a moderator. The two speakers are sitting with him on the stage, and he's interviewing them. It's like a TV chat show. And it's much more interesting, it's informal, they're making their points, they're getting their information over, but in a more relaxed way. What you see on the screen are questions from the audience. And they're not putting their hand up and waiting for the young lady with the microphone to come to them. They're using their smartphones, they're using technology such as Slido, an amazing invention, to send their questions in real time to the speakers. It's more relaxed, it's more funky, it's more participative. Over to you. How are you managing that? Here's a campfire meeting, and they're having fun. It's a valuable part of the conference, but how to manage that, how to involve the conference interpreters, because this is not part of the program. It's a much more informal element, but nevertheless important. And you know, even this, you know, outside, during the coffee breaks, what if one of these participants needs an interpreter? You know, he's just met a Russian guy who doesn't speak a word of his language, and he doesn't speak a word of Russian. SOS, interpreter, where are you? That's going to be more and more important. Less of this. This is a sign of the kind of extravagance, conspicuous consumption which has characterized conferences, some conferences in the past. You know, ladies and gentlemen, this is for most people, the most difficult period of their life the past few months. Look around you. With all my heart, I believe that extravagance, this kind of champagne element of conferences, will be out of fashion for the foreseeable future. You know, one thing we've learned during these terrible times is that some of the most important people in our society are the people who've kept the show on the road over the last few months. The supermarket workers, the bus drivers, the nurses. And everyone knows that those people are not well rewarded for their work. But I think we're reassessing our priorities, and one result, I believe, is that extravagance, luxury, conspicuous consumption will not be so fashionable. We're going to see more of this. This is a conference. This is the end of the day, 5 o'clock. The formal part of the conference is over, but these participants are putting their jeans on and doing something for the local community. People on the left, they've just been picking up the trash in a park. The people on the right, they are creating a nice garden for the residents in an old people's home. They put down grass. 2 hours later, she's painting the wall. They've made some nice benches for the old people to sit on. Now, these are small things, small gestures. But number one, it's becoming an important element of many conferences. And number two, it shows that we have a heart as well as a brain. So it's going to become an important part. Again, is there a role for you? Yes, you should be there, picking up the trash and interpreting. Finally, the impact of the lasting impacts. More concern for the environment. You know, the one winner in the past few months has been the natural environment. I'm here in London. I'm Scottish, of course, but I live in London. The skies are empty. You know, I see 2 flights a day going over my house compared with dozens and dozens in a normal day before the pandemic. We won't forget that. Green meetings, sustainability will become more important. Corporate social responsibility, what we've just been looking at, doing something for local people, for disadvantaged people, a couple of hours working in a food bank, again, it's going to intensify. Less extravagance. Don't expect the champagne or the prosecco lifestyle so much. I know you love it, I do too. And more competition from technology. And you all know that from the recent developments in conference interpreting technology. But the message I want to leave you with is this. We're all, ladies and gentlemen, you are all now going to have to, with your clients, whether they are companies or associations, make a stronger case for using face-to-face meetings. Let's not be mistaken. Many companies and associations have discovered virtual events for the first time in the last few months. And a lot of them are thinking, this is okay, we can continue. But we must persuade them not to. Remember this slide. There are advantages of online events. There they are. But there are problems too. Technical problems, I don't need to tell you about. But problems of confidentiality, potential hacking of online conferences. You know all this. There's no body language, which is so important, especially to interpreters. Time zone differences. You know, there are probably people in China following this conference today in their pajamas because it's late. Problems of attention, problems of fatigue. But look on the right-hand side and memorize these factors. These are situations when only face-to-face will do the job. When you want to inspire people, when you want to create an important emotional climate, when you want to develop trust. You need people looking at each other in the eye, shaking hands, developing trust, developing rapport. Now it's over to you, because this is part of your job to campaign, to lobby as much as you can, and above all, to be very sure in yourselves of the advantages of face-to-face meetings, and then to become an ambassador and broadcast this to anyone who will listen. Allora, almost finished, but don't go away because I have something exciting to tell you after this slide. And I'm looking at my phone, I have 15% left, so I'm hoping that it won't die. First of all, ladies and gentlemen, from my heart, many, many thanks. First of all, to the organisers for inviting me. You are beautiful people, very, very kind. And all of you, thank you for your attention when I know you're all thinking about tonight's festivities. I wish I was there. Here's my email address. Please don't forget it. Take a note because I love to hear from your profession, from people doing your job. You always have amazing stories. So keep in touch. And on the right-hand side, a little reclama for me. If you've enjoyed my speech, I have a lot more information on our industry in my latest book, Business Events, which you can find on Amazon or anywhere like that. I'm very proud of my little baby, and everything I know about our industry is there. So please, if you feel like knowing more, get it and read it and give me your feedback. Now, talking about books, I have something exciting now. I have this book in my hand. Can you see it? Can you see it? Yes. I recently got 2 copies of this book. One for myself, because I really want to know more about your industry, but also one for one of you. So what we're going to do now is to have a quick quiz and 3 simple questions. The first person to text me with the right answer, the right answers, will win a copy of this book. So send me a text with your 3 answers, and I will then contact you if you are the winner, and I will ask for your address, sans indiscrétion, and I will send you this amazing book. So get ready, get your phones out, and give me the answer to these 3 questions. You'll see my phone number at the bottom of the next screen. I don't know if I'll be able to see your. Well, we'll see. I will get your texts, and I will promise to send the book to the winner. But it would be nice to announce the winner here. So here we go. Here are the questions. First of all, there's my number, and here's question number 1. The I in mice means what? What does I stand for in mice? Question number 2. A famous poem dedicated to a mouse, in fact called To a Mouse, was written by the national poet of which country? I'll give you a clue. The poet's name is Robert Burns. And here's the most difficult question, number 3. Mouse singular, mice plural. Of course, you all know that. Which other word in English ending in "aus" for the singular forms its plural in the same way with ice? So, mouse, mice, but give me another word in English that makes its plural in the same way. Okay, let me see if the answers are going to start coming in. I hope it wasn't too difficult. I really don't know how much you know about these topics. I have had one from ending in wrong. One of the answers was wrong. Oh dear, have I lost you? Have I lost you? Okay, so let me like this.
Can you hear us?
Hi.
Can
I'm
you
still
hear
here.
us?
Yes, I can.
Great. Do we have a right answer?
Oh, we got one right answer
Did
from
we?
Natalia.
Natalia.
Yeah, I said it.
Natalia
You
who?
didn't hear me.
No, we didn't hear you for a few minutes, so we decided that you went somewhere to check your phone.
I did. Natalia Fedorenko.
Natalia, congratulations.
Now
Great.
I need Natalia to send me her address and congratulations. 3 great answers.
Great.
Do you want to know the answer?
I personally do because I don't know any of them.
So, number 1, incentives. Number 2, Robert Burns is the national poet of Scotland.
They say no.
Of course, my country. And number 3, louse. Louse and lice.
Oh, wow. Great. Thank you, Rob.
Congratulations to Natalia.
Natalia, congratulations. Поздравляем, Наташа.